Hey everyone, I'm Kevin with Victory 4x4. In this video, I'm going to walk you through our front bumper installation for a 3rd Gen 4Runner. So before you can get your new bumper going on, you obviously got to get this factory stuff out of the way. A couple things we want to mention. For example, on the 99 to 02s, it's going to look a little bit different than this. It's going to have a crash bar assembly in here that needs to be removed, so you'll have to kind of pull the front bumper fascia off and get that out of the way. On a 96 to 98, like we have here, you're going to be working with something very similar to this. You may still have the lower valance portion of the bumper in place. That shouldn't need to be removed, so you can kind of follow along as we do this here. You're going to want to begin by disconnecting any wiring going to the bumper. For example, the turn signals here, and then in our case, these aftermarket lights. Those are just a small clip on the back side. You can depress with your finger and pull straight back to release the plug. Once you've got that all disconnected, you can grab a 14mm socket and remove the 2 bolts here on each side right at this front body mount, holding the bumper bracket to the frame. This is also going to be a good time to grab a friend to help hold one side while you get the other side removed. Then you'll need a 17mm socket to remove the 2 bolts holding the tow hooks on each side. Next, take a 12mm socket and remove these end caps from both sides of the front frame horns. Next, there will be one of these brackets on each side of the vehicle that can now be removed. So you're going to need a 10mm socket to get 2 bolts out here. There's another up here under the fender well, and then we'll show you one that needs to be removed from under the hood after that. So I may have misspoke in our previous clip, but there's going to be 2 of these nuts up here under the hood on each side. It's this one coming through the side as well as this one straight down here at the bottom, and those again use your 10mm socket. So to get these out, you will have to pull out just a little bit on this top mount location while you pull down here, and then over on the passenger side only, you may have to remove the rearmost mounting bolt for the washer sprayer bottle to allow that to drop down just a little bit so that you can get this bolt out on that side. Once you have all that removed, you can come back in with one of the smaller 10mm head screws here and put it back in to mount the lower portion of this fender back to the body. So that's pretty much it for your disassembly portion. Now we're ready to begin installing the bumper mounting brackets here to the frame. So a few things you're going to need to know here. Again, the 99 to 02s are going to be a little bit different. Their profile here on the front frame horn is a bit different, and you're going to have a little bit of extra trimming to do to get to this point. So on those newer 99 to 02s, they're going to basically have a larger plate on the front face here that needs to be trimmed down to essentially match the width of this front frame horn. So you wind up with pretty much what you see here on our 4Runner. Now, the last thing we want to talk about while we're right here, and something we're going to highly recommend if you plan on doing a lot of heavy winching and recovery once your bumper's installed, is jump online and do some research on the end cap mod. There's going to be all sorts of information on it on all kinds of forums and different threads that you can read. We're going to recommend you do that here to get some added strength out of your factory frame once this bumper's in place. So after you've got all this clearanced out, the bracket will slide on like this. It'll install with the new supplied 12mm bolts and washers into these factory threaded holes where you took off the tow hooks earlier on. And then before you fully tighten this down, you're gonna wanna come out here to the outside and line this up with the factory hole out here, as you will be drilling all the way through that to install a longer bolt all the way through that frame horn. Once you have this on the frame and you're confident you got it lined up with this outside hole, you're gonna need to come in here and drill out a 1/2 inch hole to accept the long pass-through bolt here. So you can just center punch here and then drill this out. Now we did use a slot here on the inside location, so that should give you just a little bit of compliance to allow you to line that bolt up once you get this drilled. So after you have that drilled out, you can grab the longer 1/2 inch bolt from your hardware pack with a washer. Go ahead and pass that all the way through the hole. Then install another washer with a nylock nut. So when you do tighten this up, you'll use a 3/4 socket and wrench. You just want to make sure that you don't over tighten this, as there's not really any structure inside of that frame. This is all pretty rigid right here, so make sure you get it tight, but use your best judgment there. Next, you can prep the bumper for installation. So here, the biggest thing is going to be getting any lights installed that you may want to have in place. Your pod lights out here, you'll pretty much have easy access to after the fact, but definitely a center mount light bar or a winch, you're not going to be able to get in after this is on the vehicle. Now we're also going to provide you with a new amber light to take place of your factory turn signal. These are going to mount to the back on the inside face of the bumper here. We provide you with these long button heads to go through from the outside, along with a nylock nut here on the inside. There is marking on the front face of this that labels a top versus a bottom, so pay attention to that as they go in. And then you can evenly tighten these up with a 3/32 hex and 11/32 wrench. And then those will just get wired in once the bumper's installed. Now, before this goes up on the vehicle, we just want to talk about the bumper mount situation down here. So the way we designed these is to accommodate both the stock height as well as a 1-inch body lift. So the 4 holes on the bumper mounting bracket are going to line up here and here in the top set of holes at stock height. And then if you're running a body lift, you can simply shift this bumper up to run in the bottom set of holes and look a little better and tighter to the body with that all installed. So now, with the help of a friend as well as our jack, we're going to get this bumper up in place on the mounts. This is going to mount using the shorter 7/16 bolts with a washer and a flange nut in the bottom holes. Those will be followed by the longer 7/16 bolts up here, again with a washer and a flange nut, and those will go in place along with the bumper tie-in brackets. Now ideally you're going to be running these bolts from front to rear with the nut on the back side. So with those lower mounting bolts installed in the front brackets, you can grab your tie-in brace. There's going to be a left and right here for these, and then you'll be installing these with the 10mm metric bolts along with a washer here to the side, just outside of this body mount. And then take those longer 7/16 bolts we mentioned previously and pass those through from front to rear on the bumper mounting bracket, as well as through the top of this tie-in. Now that you have all the hardware loosely installed, you can begin tightening things up. So we're going to start by making sure the bumper is centered left to right, as well as up and down on either side. And then you can grab a 5/8 socket and start tightening these main bolts to the front mounting brackets, followed by the tie-ins on the side. Out on the tie-in mounting bolts, you'll just need a 14mm socket to tighten these up. Then after you get all that hardware tight, you'll just need to wire in your turn signals and then come over here and trim out these inner fender liners. So for those, it's pretty easy. This is fairly thin plastic. You can usually grab just a sharp razor knife and kind of follow the factory sheet metal outline inside of here to get this overhang trimmed out of the way. So that's going to be it for this bumper install. If you guys have any questions about this installation or any other product we offer here at Victory 4x4, feel free to reach out to us. You can give us a call at 269-459-8447 or send us an email at info@victory4x4.com.